Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Power T Talk. It is cool, crisp, 96 degrees outside, so fall football is top of mind today. Zach and I were thinking about when to record this, and there was a probability that I should have mowed today. And I said, why don't we move this time up and we'll just interrupt my time that would have been reserved for mowing, and instead we'll talk some football. And we're going to talk some Tennessee sports in general. We're excited to catch up. There is I will say, hilarious list of things that has happened in the Tennessee sports world since we last recorded, and some awesome other stuff as well. Zach, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. The grass is going to be there tomorrow, so
Exactly.
it doesn't go away. So you can mow tomorrow. That works great. I will say this is the dead period in sports, and we are not soccer people. We're football people, but I was starting to think, like, usually college football right after the NBA draft, I'm like, okay, let's go to football. But the World Cup has been a nice little break in between, and then also it just feels like college. Like, I'm doing great, but when we started talking podcasts, we're like, man, college football is kind of dead. Like, and I had other stuff going on as well, as we talked about before the podcast. But it's good to be back and kind of start getting in the swing of things, especially because last year we didn't start till like 2 weeks before season, so we actually can do previews.
Yeah, we have a little bit more like runway this year to map out how we want to talk about stuff instead of feeling like we have to pile it all into one episode. I've enjoyed the World Cup. My son has loved the World Cup as well. He'll do this thing where he like kind of stops paying attention for a second, and then hears the cheering, and he's like, "Oh, what's that goal?" And I'm like, "This is part of why you have to watch it." When I was kind of done with the college basketball season, kind of in a sad way, a predictable but sad way, and then the baseball season went how it went, I was covering another kind of reporting beat that has grown to some fame or infamy in the Braves thread on Vol Nation, and that is celebrity couples. And we've had big news in the celebrity couple space the entire summer. I mean, obviously everyone knows this. So we have massive Tay and Trav news. Everyone knows this. We had really big Joey Aguilar news. Congratulations to both of them. And then we actually do have really big Zack Caldwell celebrity couple news. Zach, do you want to share with the people?
Yeah, I don't know if it's celebrity per se.
It will be.
I do live in a very small town, so I guess anyone getting engaged in the small town is news. But yes, I am officially engaged here to my beautiful fiance Jordan. So took her to your state in the Outer Banks in North Carolina. We had a great time, and we dated for a long time, so it was not shocking to her, let's just put it that way. And she picked the ring out, so she knew it was going to happen. So that was part of it. But
making the right decision on that is worth them picking it, I think.
Absolutely is. So it's wonderful. It's great to find your person, and I love her greatly. And I told her, made sure there was at least a couple of weeks before I told her we were doing the podcast. Bought myself a little time.
The yes on that, and then be like, by the way, we are going to start recording again.
Yes, exactly.
So Yeah, you said
also 3 weeks later.
You were at the beach, and you said that, like, essentially as the event was finishing up, it started pouring rain, and y'all were kind of busting out of there.
I beat the thunderstorms by 10 minutes, so that was it was a quick one, but it was, I could see the rain clouds rolling in. I'm like, okay, I guess I'm not doing a 20-minute speech.
We're doing 5. The clock on the wall is ticking down on your acceptance speech. It's the best news of the offseason as far as I'm concerned. Congratulations to y'all. Again, we've got all sorts of silly news to chase around, but that was the best news of the offseason. I will say, we know the rhythm of football season, I feel like, a lot better than we know the rhythm of the other sports seasons, even from just specifically thinking about college sports. The combination of basketball, baseball, softball, and then still some portal stuff in college football, all of which are relevant, like Tennessee trying to be an all-sports school and being pretty good at it. You can't just turn off a sport. And so just the rhythm of when to like respond to that content versus proactively think about another idea that we want to think about, it's a learning curve. And we're like, when we were in football season, we had the rhythm of like almost exactly how we wanted it to play to the extent that our significant others would allow. Um, and so we're still finding the rhythm in the off season. If y'all have any thoughts on kind of ideas we could chase in the off season, we're happy to hear them. But I think we'll find a rhythm again as football approaches, and you can expect to see some of the same pattern for the weekly episodes, but some of the similar preseason stuff where we preview the roster, we get worried about certain things, and kind of come back to those themes, and probably wind up doing a pretty significant deep dive on what we can expect from this Knowles defense, like excitement aside, a little more X's and O's on it. And then we'll talk about kind of both sides of the ball as well. So I think that rhythm will feel much more familiar, and we're excited to talk about college football, even if again it's 96 degrees outside. And well, I think we're 52 days out from Tennessee's first game. We'll talk about
Mm-hmm.
the schedule another time. Plenty to talk about there, but I think we're 52 days out.
Yeah, it feels like after the NBA draft is when it's kind of kicks in. But I think part of it too is because the spring practices have become so restricted, and we don't even do a spring game anymore. I mean, it's like it used to be a full on scrimmage, like where you could make, like you'd be like, oh hey, that sophomore looks good, or I think if I'm not mistaken, Arian Foster had like a big spring game in '05, and people were like, oh hey, that might be a guy to watch out for. And now it's just everyone's like, we have to rest our guys up, we have to, we don't want to show anything on the on the playbook, out of the playbook, anything like that. So I think, and then with the transfer portal, you're kind of learning guys, but you don't get to see them because again, we don't have a spring game anymore, and it's just a unglorified practice set or a glorified practice session.
Maybe you were right. Maybe it's unglorified, honestly.
Yeah, I said unglorified, but you might be right. It's almost like, to me, it's kind of a joke. Like, I just would rather you not do it at all. Like what this whole like we're just gonna do drills and it's gonna like we'll keep score on the drills. It's just ridiculous. And again, I don't understand this idea that like we can't give anyone film. I'm like, you can literally just run 10 plays and that's all you need. Like, you don't need to run the full playbook. You don't need to show new formations. You can just run 15, 20 plays.
Yeah, I don't know how to tinker with it. I feel like fixing the spring football pattern, and especially a spring game right now, is like trying to fix the NBA All-Star game or something. Like, there's a
It's just
better
not
idea than
possible.
what we're
Yeah.
doing. It's just not like, and someone at some point is going to do something where the team goes and has like a home run derby, and they have fans there, and they do like a meet and greet and signing afterwards, or a charity event or something for NIL. And there's going to be some first mover on that, and everyone's going to be like super hyped. But then everybody else is going to try to do the same thing and optimize and everything. I think that this is actually a bigger discussion on college football offseason, but also I think from my perspective on college baseball and a couple other things in sports right now, especially college sports, the like utter optimization of everything makes it really hard to extrapolate off of things. I guess is like, it's almost like with those spring practices, we are seeing just literally what they want us to see,
Mm-hmm.
with like literally the prefab quotes that they want us to hear. And it's like, I this is an impossible comparison because we like this stuff, and we kind of, some people like soak it up. But our knowledge of what this season is going to be like would be absolutely no different if we got 0% of what we do in the spring.
I would just do this. I would get rid of FCS games and move them to the spring.
Yeah. Or
Now, would that
something.
happen? Because
No.
probably injury risk? No. But I would much prefer that than, the Furman game's different this year because we don't know who's going to take the snaps at quarterback. But I mean, I remember when, like, who did we play in 24 with Nico? I can't remember. It was Tennessee, somebody or other, whatever it was. So I don't like that we learned nothing from that game. There was literally like other than like, oh, Nico's got a good arm, like that was cool. But there was nothing that we actually learned. So it's not like the opponents learned anything either. So for me, I don't understand why we just couldn't do something like that. If Tennessee and Duke can play an exhibition in Thompson Bowling Arena in basketball, and Rick Barnes doesn't think that it's going to cost him a game in the SEC season, then I think we can play Tennessee Tech in April.
And just get some reps in.
Yeah, just two. I would watch the whole game, even though it would be walk-on. Well, there's no walk-ons anymore, but even though it'd be 4-string guys by the end of the second quarter, I'd still watch. I'd be all in for that.
Yeah, I don't have a good handle on the college football offseason, and part of that is like enjoying other things in life, which is totally recommended. But there was a long stretch where like this was like as Alabama was rising, and a lot of the time through the Saban cycle, it was like 24/7, 365. Like it felt like the coverage was actually, it felt kind of decent all the time too. Like you were learning stuff, and it was another feature here, another recruit here, another timeline here. And so then it felt like it kind of got pushed and extended throughout the year. Now the college football offseason just feels completely strange and blurred to me. Like how we've stretched the season and when the entire college football playoff actually ends, and a little bit of like get on with it towards the end of the college football playoff, and then like constant coverage, but we all know it's kind of useless. It's certainly dramatic. It certainly keeps a lot of eyeballs, but I don't have a feel for it. I have much more of a feel for like, oh, I can picture what this first weekend's going to be like, and I can picture a fall weekend, and like I can see the schedule and things like that. I don't really have a feel or really a care for what spring football looks like, despite it being a 365 sport lately.
Well, and I think part of the reason too is like you used to be able to do almost 2 podcasts. You could do 2-3 hours of content on an incoming recruiting class. Now it's like, well, half of them are going to be gone in 2 years. So what's the point?
Yes.
If you're lucky, by the way, if you're lucky. So it's just different. But I will say this also, like May to like SEC media days was dead as well back in the day.
Gosh, yeah.
For a 9-year-old,
True.
reading football time in Tennessee, it probably didn't feel like that, or going out in the backyard and pretending like you're playing against Florida. So it was a little bit different. But when you're a kid, it's just it was dead in those times as well.
We just have a more fond memory of it, I think.
Yeah, we just didn't have Noel Devine highlights to hold us over, or back in 2004.
I had a hilarious moment the other day, and it actually turned into a really fun moment. So my wife was seeing this thing, I think it was on TikTok, might have been on Instagram. This NFL running back was like posting them singing along with like popular, mostly country songs, but some pop songs as well. And really just going after it. Like these were getting a lot of views, this was getting a lot of interaction. And she like did a little digging on it, or she was looking for the person to show me the videos or something. And you know who it was? It was Eric Gray.
Wow.
He's apparently popping off with these videos. And she was like, is there a Tennessee connection there? And I was like, yes, there is. There sure is. I'll explain it to you sometime. It's going to sound stupid.
It all started
at
McDonald's back in 2018.
Yeah. And so it was like of all the people to be doing these random things that went viral, I was like, this has a great story attached at least. We do have a couple football things that we want to check in on, not for necessarily a deep dive, but kind of a catch up in terms of important news that one important piece of news that broke, but then just some like previewing of the big questions and big changes that we're going to have. The first one, I think we have to talk about it, given the, I guess, roller coaster that it was.
That might have been putting it kindly.
Yeah, I don't even know. Chaz Coleman, we hardly knew ye, is what I have as my summary thoughts. I don't have a whole lot else on it. I want to hear your thoughts, and I'll kind of dive in. It does feel like one that I'm comfortable just putting over here a little bit. because it never happened, but it has important implications for the roster, and it was a weird path.
So one is, I guess the first question is, are we buying that it was something medical with him, which I think could be 50-50 just based off, reports. And I mean, I trust Jim Knowles. I would think that if he thought he was a bad kid or this was going to pop up immediately, that Knowles would have been like, hey, let's not take the
I know.
chance. I know they protected the contract. Apparently Coleman only got like 50,000 or something. He did not get his full NIL check. So they didn't lose millions, but I think it's more the time and the decisions that they made to get Coleman on campus. The big one being not paying Jordan Ross and not paying Caleb Herring, which really sucks. And I'm not going to throw Coleman under the bus if it's legitimately medical issues. I don't, if I was dealing with major concussions, I would not have a stack of cash on Instagram. But again, I don't make those. I'm not that type of person. So it just blows that they they lost an investment, I guess you could say, at the expense of other players. Like, I know Jordan Ross, Caleb Herring had been a little disappointing based off like what we had seen the first couple years with them, but I'd rather have them now. And I know Diane Weathersby, I think, got some talent. I know Jordan Norman from Tulane's got some juice, but it's an unfortunate situation, and it's just part of what you deal with in 2026. It's just funny it's happened to Tennessee 2 straight seasons.
Yeah, I am willing to chalk it up as an unfortunate situation, as in there's just no need to pile on a kid, even on the 50-50 chance that it is something like that. But it's the first time I had a tinge of like, ah, crap, Jordan Ross. Like, I was very okay kind of writing that off. These roster moves happen all the time. Roster movement's part of the game now. Like, go, find the greener grass wherever you want to go, blah, blah, blah. And now it's like, oh man, that would have fit. And
Mm-hmm.
if we go back to when we talked about the Ross transfer, I certainly, and I think you a little bit, were like, he might not fit with the scheme. He might not be the physicality we need. He might not be that Knowles defensive line presence that we need. Like, he doesn't look like those Ohio State defensive ends.
It's not like Tennessee had a lot of pass rushers last year either that was getting to the quarterback. So
Yeah. And so it's like, I actually can still talk myself into like, not missing that. But it's like, well, if you don't have the other one, it sure would be nice to have a body with potential. And so, I think that we're headed for a world where we are really going to see how cleaned up things can get from a defensive perspective. Um, when we were struggling so much on defense last year, we're in a completely different world now. We'll talk about it in a few episodes. The roster looks completely different, everything. But when we were struggling so much, you and I kept thinking about like, why don't we have any pop on the defensive line? That would help us so much. It's either we're going to either weather it or that really is something that we need. And so that just makes that question rise to the forefront immediately instead of, seeing if Coleman pops. And so when you're in this NIL go gung-ho in the portal world, you really are making this or that decisions. And we made one that hasn't worked, and the roster has gotten kind of funky because of it. But I will give a tiny bit of pause if people are in panic mode to like, these things feel a lot more painful in the moment than they often are in practice. Like,
mm-hmm.
This is not to rag on any one individual player, but there have been so many people who were the one we didn't want to have go out the door that we've never thought about again.
And Coleman has juice. He was a very highly touted freshman, and he played and had some good moments at Penn State. This is not a guy who had 6 sacks as a freshman.
Yeah.
That you're going, oh, like this guy's got a true first round, no doubt about it, pick. I think he absolutely has a ton of talent, but I mean, Jordan Norman has a better career than him at this point,
Yeah.
even though it's South Alabama and Tulane. Or, I mean, I think Weathersby actually had more sacks than Coleman last year, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not saying they're the same player. Just it does help a little bit. This is not a guy they paid $6 million to, who's going to be an NFL first round pick, like, and it just something happened. It sucks, but I don't think the Tennessee's going to win the East win the East with Chaz Coleman, and they won't win the East without Chaz Coleman.
Yeah, I was going to say that exact same thing. That was
I
going to be
said
my
the
final
East,
thought.
but be in the SEC title game. We
I'll
don't
take
have the East anymore.
if there's an East, I'd love to win the East.
I'll take anything at this point.
I agree with you there. That was going to be my final thought. Is if this is what's going to make or break the season, it wasn't. We got bigger fish to fry. I guess
Right.
is my thought. This is not David Bailey and his impact or not impact at Texas Tech. Like it's, and again, that's not just like looking back and now he's gone and now he's terrible. No, not at all. It's just there's a heck of a lot of other parts of the roster that we need mapped out before that one becomes the make or break.
It's also not the Nico situation where it's like, oh my God, what are we gonna do? And it ended up working out okay, but like, I mean, they have talent at defensive end. Now, is it going to work? I don't know. No one's ever said I have too many pass rushers, but
Exactly.
it's like you said, it's not going to make or break the season.
I want to go next because we're on the topic of the defense, just in general, the Jim Knowles impact and kind of what you think of. You don't have to talk about parts of the roster yet if you don't want to. We'll talk about the schedule and kind of our worry points there. But just in general with Knowles, what are you thinking of like a year one impact and then kind of a bigger picture consideration? Because everything, we've talked about this so many times, everything feels like it has to be so microwave now. What does that look like in terms of how we're going to interact with Jim Knowles?
So I would say with the transfer portal, the year one defense I thought this was a long-term solution. I know Knowles, I think is in his early 60s, but it just felt like this was not, I need you to have me the 55th ranked defense this year, and then whatever happens afterwards, I'll just take. I don't think it was that, because I think if Heupel was thinking that, he would just give Banks one more year. I think that was the case. But I think we can all agree, I think Tim Banks overall did a good job here at Tennessee, considering the situation. I think we can agree, though, he had hit the ceiling. I think 2024 was going to be as good as it gets with him as defensive coordinator. And that's not all his fault either. Tennessee has, I would say, not made the proper investments for an elite defense or proper personnel decisions. What I think Knowles is going to do is establish a new identity and bring in new ideas. The defense was stale. You just kind of knew what Banks wanted to do, what they were going to do. And part of that is the Heupel offense. But even in 24, when they had slowed down significantly, you knew 3rd and 9. You're like, okay, there's 4 coming, and they're playing off. And it's probably going to be, it will probably be man coverage, 2 high safety, maybe a linebacker spine. Like, there was not a lot of creativity in what Banks could do. So I think like really good offenses took him apart. I think Georgia specifically, the last couple of years, had really figured out what his strengths and weaknesses were. So I'm more hopeful for year one because Knowles brought in so much talent on the back 7 specifically. I was looking at the defensive depth chart, was just blown away. Like, how many guys have had contributions in college football? But I really just want to see like better tackling, better guys in space, anticipation rather than reactionary, and a renewed sense on that side of the ball where it really felt like that team was beaten down defensively. The Vanderbilt game just, we we treated that like a funeral, and that might have been short of how actually
Oh my
bad it looked
gosh.
defensively. And I think Banks would have made it had they given up 450 yards and 28 points. And I think Heupel was like, the guys are tuning him out. They needed a fresh voice. And Knowles, it's kind of lucky Tennessee got it. When you actually think about Knowles' resume, winning a national title at Ohio State, he goes to Penn State, and then Franklin gets fired, which nobody thought would happen in 25. And to get Knowles into the program with his track record, I think it's going to be really good. I don't know if we're going to see all the effects in year one, Daniel. What I will say is I think by year 2, this defense can really be cooking.
I think that this is partly because I just don't have this landscape mapped out in my head perfectly, but if we didn't wind up with this as a possibility and just like go get him and go get his staff, I don't know who the hell would be our defensive coordinator.
No clue. Yeah.
I can't picture. I guess here's another way to say it. Obviously, we would have gone after some big name, whatever. I don't know who we could have gone after in this landscape that I would be like, I feel better about it than this name.
If they can I throw a name out there because he was tagged with it. If they had fired Tim Banks to get Ryan Walters, I would have been like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Like that resume, I'm like, this guy literally has Tim Banks' resume, except he was one of the worst coaches in Big Ten history. Like that's the only difference. So sorry to interrupt, but continue.
No, I think you're right. Like there are a lot of ones that we would have analyzed, we would have talked ourselves into, we would have seen what happened with the roster. But I actually don't think you can point to one where you're like, no, this would have been the hire I wanted over Knowles. And it took a lot of random happenstance to make that happen. I was talking to my dad earlier, and we just kind of refreshed our memories that James Franklin is at Virginia Tech.
Yeah.
And so again, like the things that had to be put in motion, I guess little did we know that in a way Nico would get Franklin fired and give us a good defensive coordinator. That was great job by him. I appreciate the shout out.
I
I'm sure
have
he
to
was
say
thinking
this.
about us.
It is so odd that Brent Pry is Franklin's defensive coordinator when he got fired from Virginia Tech. Literally, Franklin's replacement. Like, we didn't talk about that enough. Like,
What
could
is the
you
conversation
imagine? Let's just say Pruitt got fired for just performance, not for the recruiting stuff. Like, could you imagine if Josh Heupel got hired as head coach and was like, hey, by the way, Jeremy Pruitt is going to be my defensive coordinator?
I think I wouldn't have been shocked. That was what he's supposed to be good at. I like from a college football perspective, it's really funny, but it's also very funny to think about it from like just a workplace perspective.
Oh my God.
Where like Pry has to go to like a different office, and then he comes in for his first meeting with Franklin, and Franklin's like, he's changed all the decor. He's got a different office chair in there. He like just slips his mind for a second. He's like, yeah, that last office chair was
At
garbage.
least they've worked together, but yeah, that's just it's crazy. We had to talk about that. But with Knowles, back to Jim, the other thing I think Heupel is going to let him do, and why I think Knowles was willing to take the job, is I think Heupel had more of a defensive. I think he had more input on defense than we initially thought, and how he wanted the defense to play. I think you're going to see Heupel basically default everything to Jim on defense. And he's not going to worry about tempo, possessions, and stuff like that. He's just going to let Jim Knowles call defense, and they'll go from there. And if that means they get in a couple situations where they get burned on big plays to rest up or whatever it is, I think he's going to be okay. They've got depth this year, especially in the back seven.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to help. But I think Heupel is going to just let Jim be Jim and let him do his thing, because Knowles has earned that as a defensive coordinator in his career.
You don't bring him in if you're wanting to like police what he's doing on game
Absolutely.
day, honestly.
Or like, hey, Jim, we run tempo, so you have to play conservative. No, like that's
Jim's
not what
like,
you do.
Good luck with that, buddy.
Yeah, then you hire Ryan Walters. Like that's what you do.
Yes.
You don't hire Jim Knowles.
You hire the hot shot who thinks they're,
exactly
the coolest thing in school, and they want to be part of the program. Like,
or you promote William Mitch. That's what you would do. But to me, and here's the other thing about Heupel, and what I would say. He saw in 24 his offense wasn't good enough, and he changed the offense. And I would argue with less talent. Well, maybe not, because the offensive line was better. But in a situation where the quarterback was in a much tougher situation, he didn't have a star running back, and he had a great offense after he made a lot of changes. So I'm willing to say that he's just going to let Jim do what Jim needs to do.
I'm excited about it. I'm a little worried in general, but that's more of a general team thing, not a Jim Knowles thing.
It's more talent for me than Knowles.
Totally. Like, there's not something about his scheme that has me shaking in my boots.
Yeah, I'm sure we're going to criticize stuff here and there. Like, I know that's just how we are, but I don't think we're going to be like, if we give up 35 points to Georgia, I don't think we played Georgia this year. Sorry. If we give up 38 points to Arch
We'll give
Manning
up
and
35 to
in
somebody.
Knoxville, yeah, I don't think we're going to be like, Jim Knowles' game plan was so terrible. What was he thinking? I think we're just going to be
Yeah.
like, man, we couldn't get a pass rush if our life depended on it. You know?
I'll say this, and this is like teetering on schedule preview and things like that, but I'll go ahead and give a pause for myself on like the moments that we feel crap that was stupid this year from whatever, special teams, whatever. It is going to be worthwhile to pause and remember some of the stupid crap that happened last year. Not that
Yes,
that's a good thing.
exactly.
You don't want to repeat this stuff, but it's not like we were like flawless in other aspects. And so there's a lot of ways that we could improve, in my opinion. I would say
100%. It can't be worse than last year. Like,
we'll
it
review
was.
some of it as we review the schedule and like, as we kind of harken back to these things. I think there are multiple things that probably Vol fans in general have erased from their memory that I apologize in advance. We're going to be bringing back up that you're just going to be like, oh my God, that did happen, didn't it? Yes, it did.
Don't look up the Arkansas box score from
Oh my
last year.
gosh. I
Like,
was thinking about that in my head.
yeah, it's stuff like that.
I think I was on vacation when that game was happening and I was like box score watching.
Yes,
And
you
I
were.
was like, this is the worst. This is the worst experience I've ever had with this.
It was bad.
I would say, Knowles is this big side of the ball question mark, but the biggest question mark we have is the quarterback situation. Um, we don't. It's going to remain a question mark. We don't have any breaking news on that front. If anybody was wondering, um, I mean, the question that we started to toss around really is coming to the fore. Like I'm not saying we predicted it, but those little whispers that we had of like, hey, there is a freshman coming in from one of the best programs in North Carolina high school football history who is not like a scrawny guy who was one of the wing T and he won back-to-back state titles at Grimsley. And the only reason the numbers don't look gaudy is because he was injured part of the year. Those whispers are getting a little louder, and I think that's very much an excited fan base making those whispers louder. But I know you're probably hearing them if you're George McIntyre, and I know you're probably
Mhm.
hearing them if you're the offense. And so we don't know anything about the quarterback situation. I think your assessment of it and when we actually might know something is correct. It's less fun, but it is absolutely the way to think about it.
My assessment, if I had to put money, it would be Brandon right now. I
I
would
agree with you.
say is the favorite. I will say this: Heupel is not going to do dual quarterbacks. He's never done it in his entire time as an offensive coordinator or as a head coach. So whoever takes the first snap against Furman is
Just
going to
playing
be the
quarterback.
quarterback. It's playing quarterback. Like, you're not doing 2004 Brent Schaefer, Eric Kane.
I loved it, by the way. Loved
Oh,
it.
I did too. That was not a criticism. That's the most fun thing Fulmer ever did in his time at Tennessee. But the next year was not fun with Ainge and Clausen, but the 04 was fun. So I don't think he's doing that, especially because I know Brandon's more athletic, but they're pretty similar. Like, they're
Yeah, it's not like Brandon is like
Michael
gonna.
Vick. Yeah,
He's not Marcel Reed. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. So I Heupel's going to pick a guy though. Like this, you're not seeing the guy come out after 2 drives or 3, or they play quarters or anything like that. Like, whoever's won is going to be one. And I don't think Heupel thinks like this. You get leeway if Brandon's your quarterback and he's good.
and if he's good, then
Even
again,
if
this
he's
is
not great, if he's just solid, like if he's like the 8th best quarterback in the SEC as a freshman, you give yourself so much leeway for the future.
when no. I just answered my own question. So when Nico took over, there was no battle.
No,
It was
fine.
Milton to Nico, and we all knew it.
We haven't had a battle because when Heupel took over, Hooker was the one with Bailey, and they brought in Milton and basically like Joe's the starting quarterback without even having a spring practice.
True.
And then Hooker, and then Milton, then Nico, and then I know they
There was a fake
technically had a
battle last
battle.
fall.
Yeah, it was a fake battle. Like, everyone knew Joey was going to take the first snap. So, and I mean, it wasn't even a question. So this is the first real quarterback battle we've had under hype.
Here's my question for you. I think you're right about all this, by the way. I don't think he's going to send him back and forth Spurrier style. I don't think he's going to, especially not in any way that would embarrass a kid. I think the other thing that you've got nailed is we're not going to know until week 1.
Yeah,
Like
100%.
he's going to announce it at some point in fall to bring the team together, blah, 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 whoever it is. And like, here's the direction, let's go. But he's not going to, he has no reason. He's just going to let him practice. And so I think people can just put their patience pants on, as we might need to say, on that one. But I have a question. Right now, do you think Heupel knows?
I don't think he does.
You think he's going to let fall practice determine it?
I think he's leaning, but I don't think.
So
I don't think he has.
You don't think it's like someone's job to lose. You truly think it's like, let's see what falls like.
I think that is correct. George has enough talent. Like I don't think Ryan Staub's in competition.
No, so I agree with that.
George has enough talent that could it click for him and he takes over, or could, as they implement more of the offense, maybe Faison struggles. I could absolutely see that. So, but I think he's leaning, but I don't think he's made a decision. I don't think it's like it was in, the previous seasons where he went into fall, like the first day of practice, like, I know who's taking my first snap.
Yeah.
And I think it'd be dumb if he did think that.
It would be interesting if he thought that.
Yeah, I would say that would not be how he should play this.
There's no reason to, I guess. No advantage from that.
Yes.
And we do have a little bit of time. I don't want to say that. We're going to Georgia Tech early on. But we have
That's the other reason why I don't think we're having any sort of dual
back and forth. Yeah.
Right.
So I don't know. I encourage patience, but I'd be lying if I said I wasn't thinking about it.
I would also say this. If the quarterback has a bad first quarter in Atlanta, I don't think he's pulling him either.
No, because I don't mean this to take away from any quarterback in Heupel's system or these guys, but like there's a little bit of the classic Denzel Washington, remember the Titans just like Novocaine, give it time, it'll always work. There's a little bit of that with Heupel.
Mm-hmm.
Like there is a little bit of like, hey, let's see if they can continue to stop it.
Right. And I would say, I mean, I shouldn't say this. I don't know if anyone could worse. I don't think anyone could look worse than Joe Milton did in that first quarter against Pittsburgh in 21. And he did. And the only reason Joe got pulled was because he got hurt. And Hendon, whatever you want to say about Hendon, if he was assistant quarterback, whatever, he was going to be a Heisman finalist, and he was a 3rd round NFL draft pick. So he's not pulling the guy if he throws a pick and they go 3 straight 3-and-outs in Atlanta. It's not happening. Like, it's going to be that he will stick with that guy for at least through September, in my opinion.
For better or worse with this schedule.
He is not going to pull a Butch Jones with Nathan Peterman and Justin Worley, is where 2 bad things happen and it was done. So that's not going to happen. Yeah.
The other, well, that's a really stupid question. I'm going to write it down though. It is an unacceptably stupid question, but I'm still going to write it down for a future episode.
I assume that the other thing I would say is with this team, I think the quarterback, it of course matters. There's so much offensive talent. I think that the quarterback's going to have the most help they've ever had.
That'll be an interesting conversation. I sure do wish we had a good running back portal ad.
Yeah, I mean, that's the one thing. If they had gotten a stud running back, this would not be a contest. But with this receiving core and this offensive line, I'm pretty confident that the quarterback's going to be fine. Might not be a superstar, but I think it'll be really hard for somebody to mess this up. Is probably a better way to say it.
I will say this, man. I don't mean this to like say we're about to go run the table or anything. we're not. But if people think that because there's this funky question of these two lesser known people and one's a freshman, blah, 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 that our offense isn't going to be good, you might want to keep thinking, because I still think this is one of the best offenses in the country, one of the best play callers in the country, with a ton of talent getting off that bus. If anybody expects our offense to just be dead in the water, I don't think so. Might not be perfect, but it's not going to be a joke either.
This will not be the worst offense Heupel's had here. That's how I'll end the football comment.
Which one's the worst in your brain?
2023.
Yeah, fair. What about 20? Well,
Under
Samson helps.
2024, they had Samson.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
Yeah, not bad.
So I want to transition a little bit to other Vols sports and just give kind of our general update, partially because we kind of left these wanting a little bit and updates have happened, but partially because we might not check in on these sports for a while. There will be news that drops, but kind of a lot has shifted and a lot has happened with these sports, and we might not hear from them until later in the football season. And so I want to give a basketball check-in and a baseball check-in, kind of a year one review of Elander. We'll do the basketball check-in first. Did not expect this to be the way it went. The whatever portal updates you can give us, but then more of a general, like, how are you feeling about the program compared to kind of the end of last season? And we had some good thoughts about the end of last season, some positive thoughts.
Rick Barnes just constantly surprises me.
I would have been so wrong on my guesses here.
I got to give it up to him and the powers that to be at Tennessee. They saw what happened in the Michigan game, and it was a talent. It's not only the first time in probably since 2020. So since 2020, Tennessee had a true talent deficiency in an NCAA tournament game, or just against another really good team, like a true talent deficiency. And they went out, and not only did they go get dudes, they went out and changed what type of player they got.
They didn't. It just doesn't feel like Rick Barnes would do like an identity shift in the portal,
and he did 100%.
Totally did.
Like you kind of saw with Gillespie a little bit, and part of it is like he had Zakai for 4 years, like during the portal, so he just didn't have to. Because like Kennedy Chandler and Jacoby Gillespie, there are similarities in their game, so I don't want to say, that Barnes didn't want to like on-ball score, but like every player he brought in that wasn't like a center, scored. Juke Harris is probably going to lead the SEC in scoring next year.
He very well
like
can.
that's how good he is. Day Ames could easily put up 25 any night. Harrelson might be the most talented wing we've had since Admiral. Like that's how good he is. Not from a NBA perspective, just a production standpoint. Yeah. And Harrelson, and then they got Hill, who lit it up at VCU. They got 4 guys who can put up 20 per night, where last year they had one and a half if Nate could get to the free throw line. So they got, and they spent money.
They spent money, and they got multiple guys who would have been the number one. Like they got multiple guys who were going to be the like, oh, we got a scorer in the portal.
Yes, and I don't even know. Like Hill's not going to start probably. And he would start for 97% of college basketball teams, probably closer to 99%. Like that's how good he is. And that doesn't even talk about Lundblade and Lou, who both played well at mid-majors last year. And Ruben has got some talent. And they brought in Chris Washington, who was a top 50 freshman, who was top player in the state.
When we started kind of rolling toward, when we kind of left off our last recording, we it's a hats off to Michigan and all that. And obviously they've undergone some changes since, but it was kind of like, okay, we'll see what happens in the portal. Like, we'll see how we feel about this. We'll see if we can build around the tiny little core that we can talk ourselves into. If we would have had a conversation at the start of the portal, think about how funny it would look right now. Because I know for me, I would have been like, okay, like you can maybe you can trust Boswell to develop, and he's going to wind up at least contributing and filling the stat sheet. And we need a scorer, or maybe it's a scorer at a wing instead of a guard. I would have been mapping something out, and we would be talking right now, and I would be making fun of myself because they did just a totally different thing than I expected, but a way better job of it too.
And made tough decisions. Like, they didn't bring Estrella back. Not a lot of coaches would have the gumption to do that. I hated losing Amari Evans. I think he's going to be awesome, and I still hold that. But they said we need a guy we know we can trust to score next year, and Terrence Hill. And that was, I think, where the decision was. And I'm glad they kept Dwayne Brown. I was very happy about that. They kept Henderson for some there, but like Ethan Berg was like, I want to be at Tennessee next year, and they said we're good. And they to make not only the tough decisions, but then spend the money and get these dudes is. I'm so excited. Like when we do our preview in October, like it's going to be really hard to to keep me under control.
Yeah, because it's not just like a hope and a prayer on a couple scores anymore. Does feel like a way more full roster. And like there are multiple dudes. Amari Evans is one, Boswell's one for me. They're like, we're gonna be rooting for them, like where they
Mm-hmm.
landed. It's not that we were like, get them out the door, but it's like it really felt like a gotta break a few eggs to make an omelet kind of deal. Like
Mm-hmm.
you can't try to reinvent the roster like this. And also, I mean, in this world, you're just not also gonna be able to hold on to the developmental pieces. Like you're just not. And they probably knew that going in. And I mean, those people ended up with like they landed with good coaches. Like it's not like they were left in a lurch. But I don't know. It was very much like a hey, that is not the trajectory of this roster and this team right now.
For them to like, I've not seen a Tennessee sports program clearly say we're going for a national title. Like that's what they did.
Yeah.
For them to like tell Bishop Boswell like, hey, we're moving on from you, a local kid who was a starter and definitely had talent and could play and deserved to come back and be a starter like he did. And for them to take a young kid like Evans who played well as a freshman and say we're good is it's insane. Like I was really surprised that Rick was willing to do what he did, and kudos to him for doing those things.
Do you have any thoughts on Nate Ament and kind of where he landed in the draft? I had a feeling this would happen, and I was kind of bummed about it, but he did kind of become the punchline of a lot of draft coverage. Like a lot of people were mapping out these lottery picks, and he kind of became the one that people piled on a little bit, which sucks. I mean, it's just not a fun thing for a kid who seems to work really hard to have to go through. Again, at the end of the day, like he's still in the NBA. He's still going to have a chance to make an impact. And so, what do you think about his landing spot in Milwaukee?
I think he got in a good spot. He needs to play NBA minutes. I don't think a good team stacking him in the G League was going to be an answer for him. And I also don't think a really bad team giving him 30 minutes a night was going to be an answer. The Bucks are not going to be good, but they have guys that
They're
have
going to be very bad.
contracts. They're going to be bad, but they have guys that have contracts and are going to play, and they're going to want to showcase for the trade deadline. So, and I get it. The analytics hated him. The film, if you didn't like, I'll just be honest. If he didn't play at Tennessee, if he played at like Arkansas, and I saw the 10 games or whatever, I'd been all out on him. I saw the
Yeah.
improvement game to game, and I know he had injuries the whole year, and like this offense was not suited to him in any way. But I think he can find a role. I think he's got to get stronger. He's got to learn to put some pressure on the rim. He's going to have to shoot threes. Like he's got a lot to work on. But Milwaukee's a good spot for him because he's not going to have any pressure. He can play 15. Hopefully he gets, maybe he doesn't play. It wouldn't shock me if he didn't play the first couple of months, right? But by that trade deadline, maybe he's getting 20 minutes per night after they make some trades, and he can find a role. Like he's not going to be a star. I think we all agree that's the case, but they're like, you need you need a starting small forward. Like there's 30 open spots for a starting wing, and he's got the size, he's got the talent, he's got some of the skills that you look for. So I think it's a really good spot. I would have hated if he had like went to Chicago or something like that, like a team that's like we're playing all young guys. And I would have hated to see him like if he got drafted like Oklahoma City, and they're just like you're playing in the G League for 2 years, and we'll
Just
see
a
what
pure
happens. And
stash.
yeah, we'll see what happens in year 3. So it's a good spot for him.
Yeah, I wish the best for him. I mean, I really enjoyed his time here, even if it didn't live up to the absolute potential we wanted it to. I mean, just when he was in a rhythm, and weren't as many games of that as we wanted, weren't as many stretches, but when he was, it was really nice to see a freshman force like that. Like we very rarely experience that, and so I don't, you are much more familiar with the NBA, but I hope that we hear from him again, as in
Hmm.
he has an opportunity to have a chip on his shoulder and go do something, and so he could thrive in that. It's a long career.
I will say I love Jacoby in San Antonio. I think that was a perfect
Hmm.
spot for him, and good for Felix getting drafted. I did not see that. I did not. I once the combine happened, he had a really good showing, so I thought so. But like if you told me in April he was going to get drafted, I didn't expect that. So good for him.
Certainly.
All right. So we're going to switch it up a little bit. I'm going to take over as host now. So I'm going to be, asking some questions for Daniel because he's more of the baseball guy when it comes to the baseballs. We're doing a little baseball check-in as well. A up and down season. I would not say a failure compared to previous years. Yes, but I think considering everything that happened with the late managerial change and everything, I don't think you could look at this as a failure. Uh, it's very weird to be like Tennessee made 5 straight super regionals and broke that streak, and you're like, oh my God, they made 5 straight super regionals. That's insane. But overall, they still made the tournament. They got a 2 seed, and it unfortunately they just couldn't pull it out that first game, and then they looked defeated in the second game. So I wanted to just do a quick report card, essentially, and I wanted Josh Elander in year 1. What were your thoughts on the season, just overall from the team, and do you think Elander overall are you leaning positive towards the future?
I gave him a B minus, and I bumped it to a B because he held on to some big names, and so
Hmm.
I'll go through kind of those a little bit of the roster machinations in a second. I started the season, and kind of the blog entry I wrote at the beginning of the season was tinkering Teagan was the theme. Like Teagan needs to be volume, and he had some moments where he was, and then we're going to be tinkering with this lineup because we have to find production. Like, sorry in advance, but we're going to be seeking production, and we didn't always find it. The end of the season, I'm more on kind of like frustration and finding ways to lose. I know that's a funky description of a B minus B grade, but it's his first year, and I'm willing to see more. It wasn't necessarily that we it wasn't a massively disappointing season. Like, it was kind of the season I would have expected, but it was just one of those seasons where, and you and I talked about this a little bit, like, especially when these SEC games are really intense, and they kind of demand, I don't mean to act like it's a hardship, but they like demand a lot of you as a fan. Like, you're bought in, people are barking at each other, blah, blah, blah. When you have that, but you kind of know this team isn't quite good enough, it's a weirdly frustrating season. It was kind of difficult to just say, okay, we'll see where they wind up, because they would have these little flashes, or you would have a flash from Teagan where you were like, well, if we line this up and somebody gets this version of Teagan on a Friday night, it doesn't really matter. We're going to win. But there were so many other instances where that version of the team didn't exist. And so when I think about interestingly enough, one of the most notable stretches was when we went down to Mississippi State and handed it to them. And it was like, okay, we're finding our groove at the right time. aside from that, I think Mississippi State fans probably had a way more enjoyable watching experience this year because they had guys step up and they had more offensive production, and they really felt like they could chase a title in Omaha. Whereas I think if I had been honest with myself pretty early on, I would have been like, I can think of, we talked about this a tiny bit in the preview. I can think of 4 or 5 SEC rosters that we just can't hang with. And that wound up being true. Like, it wound up being true. And so given that on day one of the season, I would have said, I actually didn't expect Georgia and a couple others, but I would have said Texas and Mississippi State are just straight up better than us. The fact that we finished behind them in the standings, I can't go off the top rope on Elander for that. The process to get there was really frustrating a couple of times. Like, there were times where it felt like he just could not press the right button. He didn't know when to play small ball. He didn't know when to kind of ramp up the aggressiveness. I think this is not all on him, but a flip of the coin on bullpen decisions would have wound up with better results. Like, we just had such bad luck with that.
In the games I'd watched,
Oh my
and
gosh.
it's funny because when you don't watch every game, you get no, but when you watch every now and then, you kind of like, I go to the tournament and I'm like, I have no clue who he's bringing at any point of
No,
these games.
I watched over half the games and I didn't know. Like, and the pattern, I'm going to forget the exact pattern, but we talked about it a little bit. Like, the pattern in the last 2 games of the season of, like, when he decided to use Appenzeller, and then when he's just stuck with him too long and they gave up the lead, it's like like, you should have brought him in earlier and been ready to move on quicker, not brought him in too late and not ready to move on quick enough. Like, there were just a couple moments where it was like he didn't have the pulse. And frankly, some of that, I feel comfortable saying this because he's having a pretty miserable time in the MLB. He didn't have that, like, pulse that it seems like sometimes Vitello had, where he was like, this is going to work just because it's going to work. And we were worried about that, especially from a pitching perspective with Anderson gone. And so I think it's not that big of a coincidence that we have a new pitching coach. We went and hired Austin Knight from East Carolina, and he's kind of become very highly touted from Trey Savage moving through the minors so quickly and being such a big name in the MLB. But he's in an opportunity to reload. The thing I'm most impressed with is the guys he held on to. Like, we still have Appenzeller. We still have Mack. We still have Girdlinger. We still have Clark. We still have Lawless. I don't think those guys are necessarily first rounders. They're not necessarily Golden Spikes Award type of guys, but we didn't just have like a clearing out after 1 year of Elander. And so I'm happy with that. Other than the Teagan start, probably my favorite moment of the season was when Ford hit that home run to tie it up in the playoffs or in the postseason, and then we promptly just made 2 stupid mistakes and gave up the lead, and the season was over. And so it's just like, okay, why did I get excited? And he has also had success in filling some of the roster gaps that we kind of knew we were going to have with people moving around. Braden Kersey, Wyatt Hanoyan, 2 guys coming in who have a record of hitting the ball. We'll see if they can do it in the SEC. We know that is a step up a lot of times, but he's filling the roster with dudes who mash, who also happen to be extremely athletic. Multiple of these guys are two-way players who have had success on both sides. That's pretty good. I mean, that's been our model for a while, and that's what gets you like a guy like Newstrom, who I wish we could see more out of, or a guy like Girdlinger who hits early on. Those just like big athletes, and it's like, come in here and see if you can do it. That's been our model for a while. We'll see if it can continue to work, but it's not like he's whiffing on those guys. And so, give me eventually next season a Friday night with Appenzeller and a little bit better offensive production, and we'll roll him out there and see what happens.
I think 2 important notes that I would say, and then you could follow up if you'd like. One, you can't guarantee it, but even before the Vitello leaving news happened, this was not a top 5 preseason team.
No.
Like, everyone knew this was they were going to take a step back. Like, they were just due. And that's how college baseball has been as well this decade. Like it's not, you don't see, I know LSU won like 2 national titles in
Yeah,
3
but
years,
they were
but like,
horrible this year.
yeah, exactly. So it's one of those things where there's a lot more volatility in college baseball. And I
So
think
much.
making the tournament when the best, I'll just say it, the best manager in college baseball left you in October is, I think, an accomplishment. And especially because some of the bats that Vitello brought in the transfer portal, not Ford, but a couple of the other ones did not do what they were supposed to do.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's Josh Elander's fault. And it, I don't know, like they just kind of made their own mistakes in the college in their 2 losses. Like if they win those 2 games and they win they win the regional somehow, baseball postseason is such a freaking crapshoot that it's hard to judge. And I think judging based off that and the fact that they were playing better at the end of the year before that happened, I
Yeah.
think is a good sign. And again, Elander did keep a ton of talent. Like they're able to keep a ton of talent that got drafted. They had a good transfer portal. A lot of leadership's coming back. So I think they're in a good spot.
Yeah, I think, and the guys that we lost, like the guys that have portaled elsewhere, people can feel however they want about them. I'm not that concerned. Like the guys we've lost, like Jay Abernathy, he might be a great fit at Oklahoma, and props to them for going and winning it all. But he's an idea at this point. You know, he's squirrel wide of baseball at this point. And so super talented, super twitchy, but it hasn't happened yet. And I don't know if we wanted to count on it happening next year. And so I think the one point that I'll give you props on, that Mississippi State series and that Teagan start and a little bit of tiny bit of juice in some moments during the postseason, that stuff happened in the latter part of the year. That wasn't like early on and then it all fell apart. He had him engaged. And so, you know, this is a bigger commentary on college sports in general, but I love the College World Series. It's near the top of the list as far as my favorite sporting event now. But man, if it doesn't feel like we are just like playing Yahtzee with talent with that. And maybe this has always been the case and it's just a little bit more pronounced now. But I think you're shaking up the dice every year and just rolling them out there and you're seeing who hits a Yahtzee. And it's not even necessarily a bad thing. I just don't know what to do with some of these results now. Like, and it shouldn't invalidate them. It's everyone's roughly playing in the same playing field. But I've had times, and I even felt this a little bit. I'm going to forget the name. Who was the Clemson transfer, the third baseman who came in and just Billy Amick?
Yep.
I've had little moments where it's like, even people who are contributing to Tennessee, I'm like, the process that we shook up and threw these guys out there, even when it's good for us, sometimes has me in my brain like lowering the legitimacy of the results. And I don't like that. Like, I don't like myself in that version as a fan. But it was really apparent to me, and this is just because I don't like Georgia, but like when I think his name's Volchko for Georgia pitched like a complete game, sit everybody down in the College World Series. And he was like an immediate Georgia sports legend. I was like, dude, this guy was in Palo Alto like it's like 4 months ago. And so it's not hating on him. He was awesome this year. But it's just this kind of the bigger picture of college sports. And it just became really acute with college baseball of it really is stack as much talent as possible and shake these things up and throw them hard and see what happens. And that's what Texas baseball did and it worked out. That's what Georgia did. That's what Texas is doing in football. Like, it's no knock. It's what we're supposed to do now. But it just feels a little bit non-programmatic in ways that I am whining about, basically.
Or you lose Chase Burns, who could win the Cy Young this year, and you win the national title anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Where it's like
there you
yeah, and I will say, I will 100% admit that there are moments where I'm like, yeah, Chase Burns a Vol. But
if he wins,
but
the
I
Cy
don't
Young,
like the rest of it.
yeah, I will say too. I think that's baseball in general. Like, just go look at the Major League Baseball
Dear
standings right
God,
now.
yeah.
I think the talent level at the top and the bottom has really condensed. It's happened like this in the NBA a little bit, where you're like, am I sure the ninth best player in the NBA is actually better than like the 27th best player in the NBA? Like the Jaylen Brown discourse being
Mm.
that completely, and we don't have to get into that, but I feel like the talent level the floor has risen so high in baseball, in college baseball. And I'll say this too, it's going to even be crazier if, I don't think it's going to happen, but if the owners get their way
Oh my God.
and get the high school players, like no more drafting high school players, it's going to be even crazier.
I was thinking about, so the other thing that makes it insane with college is the bats. Like, we're at a point now where that adds to it. And it's not
Mm-hmm.
taking, I mean, again, like, I really enjoyed Christian Moore in the College World Series. I'm not apologizing for any of this. But we're at a point now where that technology is getting so good that it's like every single at bat is a launching pad. And so when the talent starts to come together, boy, everything is a launching pad. And I was thinking about it during the College World Series, thinking back on the College World Series after that recent proposal of like that Oklahoma team that just won. It was like a force of nature all of a sudden. Think about if their middle infield also included Eli Willits.
Right.
And
Yeah,
because it
exactly.
would with this proposal. And so I was like, this is, I can't even wrap my brain around this. You would have, I mean, you legitimately would have had, well, I don't know the proposal well enough to know if this is actually true because he did technically go to college. But think about like Bryce Harper playing on NIL at LSU for 3 years.
Or Trout. Yeah, exactly.
Trout was committed to ECU of all places. So it's just a
I
different
mean,
world.
yeah, it's something I just can't like wrap my head around. But yeah, to bring it back home to Tennessee, I think year 2 is where we're going to figure it out
Yeah.
about Elander. And then Vitale is going to take the Arkansas job. So then I'm hoping Elander will
Yes.
have it figured out. So
Let's go try to win now because Vital
yes,
is going to be back like middle of next summer.
probably. All right, Adidas switch. It's
I texted
fine.
you.
Are we that old? That's the real question. Are we that old
I
that it was like fine?
I think I said this to you when we were initially talking about it. I said, I think if you and I care about this, that's a major problem for Adidas. They have missed entirely if you and I have a problem with it. We're pretty indifferent on it. But if you and I are like, they did this badly, they must have done it really badly. I think everything looks good. I I think the script and everything on the baseball jerseys looks really good. I think the lack of visible buttons is strange.
Yeah.
It looks a little space uniformy, but it still looks good. Um, I don't know. I mean, I don't know where you sit on this, but I actually think my favorite version of Tennessee football jerseys is like the classic 1990s into 2000s Adidas style, Peyton Manning, Eric Berry, like that kind of look.
Yeah.
So I'm fine with it. I have a
I would have
Marquez
liked the
North
black
Adidas
outline on
jersey.
the white. I would have liked I still have my Eric Berry jersey somewhere
Yeah,
here from 2007. I I do wish they did the black outline on the white
I think
jerseys, but they look
I think they're
fantastic.
gonna. I think they're saving
Okay.
it.
Okay. They do like they look good. I like the circle T. I thought that was cool. The block letters, the block numbers, they do look a little bigger, a little better, which I appreciate. But I mean,
They seem to have gotten the oranges right. We had that mac and cheese era for a little while that I
yeah,
hated.
God, oh yeah.
So hopefully it looks good on the field. I'll say this: we would not have Tristan Keys without this Adidas thing.
I
Very
put
clearly,
if we get David Gabriel Georges in recruiting, I will like Adidas more.
yeah. And
Also, I do appreciate they kept the Tennessee basketball font. That has become iconic. So I'm not saying it's Carolina blue, but to me, that should be Tennessee's basketball jerseys, period. Like
I
that should
think
be the home and away with the Tennessee Volunteers in the circle.
yeah,
Like that should stay there for permanently.
the best thing without having like been to the Vol shop or been somewhere and like looked through the gear or whatever. The best
Danny
thing.
White's disappointed in you, by the way.
Well, hey, I'll get there as quick as I can, buddy. Um, the without having like looked for something yet. The biggest thing I can say is I think every single thing I saw and someone talking about it was people were like, "Well, these look good," and they just they didn't drop the ball. Like, you want it to still just be you don't want it to be news other than these look sick, and that's what it's been.
I will say, as I've gotten older, those 2013 Grays were freaking terrible. I did not real. I thought they were fine at the time, but they
Was
were
that
terrible.
Dobbs?
Yeah, 2013. Yeah, when I think they played. Who was in the 2013 Grays?
Kurt
It
Magid
was
era?
yeah. Worley. It was Butch Jones's first year. They were bad. Yeah, that's smoky gray. It was not good.
The helmet
I think
helps a
they
lot
wore
with those
white
grays.
helmets with it to it.
Yeah,
They
those
wore
white
white
helmets.
helmets too. Yeah, gross. Okay. All right. Next, we're going around the NCAA. Not a ton of news. We're a little behind. If we had done this last month, we would have been there. But it would be remiss if we did not talk about the Brandon Sorsby situation. And one of the biggest college stories of the decade, I would say, with the amount of coverage it got. As we know, Sorsby is in Texas Tech won a lawsuit for him to play. The Big 12 and their opponents basically threatened to sue Texas Tech, and then Texas Tech decided we're going to pay you out. Essentially, they paid him his contract, but said he wasn't going to play, and then Sorsby was banned from the NFL. Essentially, this year, the NFL said he could not be eligible until 2027. And it did feel a little bit of a turning of the guard moment. I think you and I would both say, since the Supreme Court unanimous decision that what the NCAA was doing, limiting NIL, was unconstitutional. The players have basically won everything. And this felt like the first time that the NCAA and the conferences took a little bit of a stand. I don't know where that's going to lead, but it was very interesting dynamic to watch.
Yeah, the fact that it was such a high profile player, I guess, is
Yes.
interesting. Like, I wonder what would have happened if this is like a fringes offensive guard. Um, it certainly wasn't, and so we don't have to like make up a random other case. I was I was actually surprised by how willing the other conferences, et cetera, were to be like, "Are you freaking kidding me?" Um, and
The
it just
college
goes to
football
show,
playoff said they would consider not voting for Texas Tech. Like,
yeah.
that's how serious we were getting.
And so they were just throwing weight at this thing, and it just I just wonder, does it have to be something that is like so almost like blatant misconduct, or will this affect other snakiness? I don't know. Like, this feels like an easy case for people to be like, yeah, no, we can't go here. But I wonder if we're going to be right back to like gray area and challenging everything, et cetera, pretty quickly. Um, it's also one that from the beginning, I felt like the answer was obvious. And so I did kind of sit back and say, like, if they don't wind up at this answer,
Mm-hmm.
we're living on a different planet from what we should be doing. And they actually did. And so I was kind of surprised. Like, there was a small part of me that was like, they're going to weasel their way around this somehow. And they didn't have a route to, which was good.
I think this and the Bediako situation with Alabama has turned public perception a little bit. And
Yeah.
it feels like also do I want the government to get involved? No, but I don't know what the answer is. Like, that's the problem. So it does feel like between this, what Ted Cruz and the other Washington Center, the bipartisan bill that they're proposing, which I thought made a lot of sense, actually, unfortunately, it did. And then, I mean, the 5x5 rule is government backed. Essentially, they
Yeah.
said that needed to be done. It does feel like we're starting to adopt some stricter eligibility guidelines. Really about the Euro basketball players as well. It does feel like sentiment shifted a little bit where we have to get some governance in here, and I don't even care about the NIL stuff. Like, if Ohio State wants to pay $50 million for its roster, then I'm whatever, cool.
Can't
But
stop them.
the transfer portal, the eligibility, the Euro kids or Euro men, actually, excuse me,
Yeah.
the Euro men coming over, like, needed. There had to be a point, and I feel like it's timely turning. Like, we've hit. Okay, we cannot do this anymore. Here's the line. you had a mile, you took 3, we're taking the other 2 miles back.
I really wonder. I'm going to say this. I think what I'm about to say is true, but I think it's been a complete mess and has actually caused me some real annoyance along the way. I actually think that this path, this order of operations of complete disastrous free for all, and then we're going to start to put rules on it, is probably going to lead to better rules that make more sense than if they had tried to set rules from the beginning and then challenged and tinkered and given and give a little more and it's like they would have been in a place where nothing was ever set, and not that these are set, but like they would have gotten to a place where they were constantly in a gray area, constantly giving a little more, constantly giving a little more. This was like they almost like let I don't know the right analogy. It's not going to be a good one, but it's like they let 12 puppies loose in their house, and then they realized, oh, these are the things we need to not have out because they're getting into them.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of thinking that they had the perfect rule set up, and then you wake up in the morning and 6 puppies, got into the cheese drawer somehow. Like, I don't know if that's the perfect way to think about it, but
I think that's a really interesting way to think about it, because with how much the courts are involved, this was probably the best way, is to go through this really rough patch where the rules don't matter. And now you have reached a point of like sentiment turning towards you after decades of people just being like, this is ridiculous. Why is the
yes.
NCAA so bad? Where now the NCAA actually has some sympathy and they can now actually enforce stuff. It's like the transfer portal. It's like, okay, you guys can transfer. What are you going to do with it? And it's like, oh, you have abused what the point of the transfer rule was. And now we are going to go ahead with what like Cruz and the other center are doing. We're going to take away some of that. We're still going to give it to you, but we're also going to, not let you transfer 3 times in 3 years.
It reminds me of two other things, one sport and one non-sport. We haven't fully fixed the first one, but remember when we first got replay, especially in the MLB, especially on the place that it comes up in my brain is like on stolen bases, where you have the whole airtime problem, where it's like this guy has slid in, he has clearly stolen this base. If he comes off the base on the back end, over slides, that's one thing. Tag him, he's out. We can replay that. But when we started having these challenges, because as he is like stopping on the base, there's a split second where his belt is not touching second base and the tag is on him and we're calling him out. Like, okay, we didn't realize people were going to use challenging in this way. This is not in the essence of the rule. We need to find a way around this. Like, we need a tiny allowance for this. Or a little bit better analogy, you're going to absolutely love this one. Ohio State on their campus has the massive quad, the oval. And when you look at it now, there are what seem like perfect pathways to every building you would need to get to, and from one end to the other, and to the library, and to like my building when I was there. And it's lovely. And you're like, oh my gosh, these spokes of walkways are beautiful. It's lovely. It's obviously the most beautiful campus in the country, especially when you compare it to Ann Arbor. It's probably not true. The way they got these paths to look so natural is they didn't put paths in. This was just grass. And they let people use these paths for however long and create the walkways that they wanted between buildings. And then once the grass had worn on the routes people actually used, they went and paved the pathways and said, this is where people are walking. And so this is slightly different when you have to put rules on stuff, but I don't know that they meant to do this, but I think the NCAA actually maybe stumbled into, hey, we see how much bullshit y'all are trying to get away with. And we have some rules in mind that are going to help make this make more sense. I think it was probably totally accidental. They've never done anything good on purpose in their entire existence, maybe.
Right.
But it might lead us to a decent place. The 5x5 rule makes sense, I think. And so really stupid path to get there, but we might have some things that start to make it feel like, okay, we don't have to worry about that.
I don't know how much it's going to matter until somebody actually stands up to the SEC or the Big Ten. Like
Oh
that's
yeah. No,
that's
I
going to
guess
be the big thing.
that's an important clarification is this was not ultimately the NCAA responding to Sorsby or the NCAA
Like,
setting a rule about years and eligibility. This was other conferences.
or if like the NCAA was like, we're not leading to like the NCAA going, hey, Big Ten, you have to get rid of Washington and Oregon and USC and UCLA. Like
Here's
it,
what I almost said at the beginning about Sorsby and like being a fringe player. The other comparison is if Sorsby were the quarterback in Baton Rouge right now.
yeah,
Would this have been the same?
probably because it's Kiffin. Yeah.
Yeah, he wasn't exactly like everyone's favorite at the time. I think
If
this would
it's
have been like,
Georgia, would have been the same. I don't
yeah,
I don't
like
think it
if
would have
Kirby
been.
Smart brings in Sorsby and it's like the piece they need, and he just happens to not have known that he placed, what was it, 11 billion bets in the past 6 months. What are we
I
like?
also think
I don't know.
and Texas Tech will never say this, is I think there was something with the players as well.
Ah, interesting.
I think that this might have been more player motivated. I just this is me. I'm not a professional athlete. I was not a collegiate athlete. I was just your average high school athlete in the beautiful
Locker rooms
state of
still
Tennessee.
exist.
Hey, I could box out like a mofo. But if I figured out a guy placed bets on his own against his own team, I would beat his ass.
The little
And
bit of
I
like,
would not.
yeah,
And I know he did it at Indiana, and then he went to Cincinnati, Texas Tech. I would just be like, get him off my. I don't want him. Period. I don't care how good he is. I don't want to deal with him. I don't want to see him. I have no faith or trust in him. Because the first time that he makes the wrong read, or the wide receiver thinks he's running a hitch and he throws a fly, I would be like, why? And so I think for the players had more behind the scenes than maybe this was letting on, which makes sense. And I Sorsby, gambling addiction is a real thing,
yes.
but you also have to pay the consequences for actions that you did. And if you bet against your own team, he did not bet on his team. He did, but he also bet against his own team, like in prop bets or whatever. Like, dude, you can't. You lost the privilege to, in my opinion, to play sports.
It's an
Serious.
absolute non-starter, and as soon as it's not an absolute non-starter, we've jumped the shark.
Like, I don't think he should be able to play in the NFL. Personally,
Yeah, I think that's going to take care of itself.
I think it will too. But it's in the fact that Texas Tech, and I get it, they paid him $6 million, whatever. The fact that like there was like no moral, like, oh, we're getting him the help he needs, and he's going to sit out the first two games against Abilene Christian and Texas State. It's like unbelievable. Like, you got, like, seriously, like, come on, like, stand up for yourself. Have a little pride.
Honestly, like, go. Yes, I agree with you there. We're back rolling. We'll try and have a preview of our previews. Like, we'll have a schedule for like when we're going to be talking about what, and kind of eventually building up to like a schedule preview and picking these games and kind of where we think the team's going to sit. But there's a ton of stuff to get to in the meantime. And so we'll see if we start to learn anything else. But we will have other roster considerations and scheme considerations, in the upcoming episodes. And then anything else that flies at us, we'll tackle that as well as we build toward another season of college football. And I think it's going to be a very interesting one.
It's Tennessee, that it's really I don't want to say a fork in the road. I think that's a little too dramatic, but definitely a season of change for the football team. The new SEC with 9 games, I think it's going to be awesome. Now that everyone's playing 9 conference games, unless you're like 5 ACC teams because they're idiots and have 17 teams in their conference. But I think that's going to be great. I think it's going to be a real fun season. I think getting into the nitty gritty, it's going to take more work than it used to with rosters.
Yeah.
But it's going to be really fun to study everybody and get some film on Knowles as well, and get into what's really fun about these previews.
Yeah, when we did the previews last year, I was like, okay, this is like formulaic. Like we're going to be able to just place new people in these spots and do a similar rhythm. I'll be honest, y'all, it does not feel like that at all.
Mm-mm.
Even if we know some of these names, it does not feel like that at all. And so y'all are going to be learning right along with us. But there is still a ton of fun stuff to map out on these rosters. And so I'm excited for it. I hope y'all are excited for it, and we will keep rolling.
Thank you guys for listening. We're glad to be back, and go Vols.